Let's come back to our conversation about social media and whether it should be banned for the under 16s. Let's turn now to Matthew Scott, Kent's Police and Crime Commissioner. Matthew, welcome back to the show. It wasn't that long ago, actually, we were talking about your concerns, was it? And you did a survey finding that a third of Kent's young people have been bullied online. So do you think banning is the answer for under 16s?
I think we should, and I think it needs to go hand in hand with support for parents around not letting young people have the smartphones in the first place. I think just because something is difficult, it doesn't mean we shouldn't do it. And I think we should try, and we should support parents in coming together, in educating on the dangers of social media, on the risks attached to smartphone usage, particularly overuse of smartphones, because there is evidence there of the harm that it's doing. As you just mentioned, the number of young people being bullied online has increased. The number of people admitting to doing the bullying has increased. The amount of time they're spending on their phones every day is an hour longer than they're telling their parents. So there's a number of things that I think we should try, and I think we should have a look at this ban properly and see if we can do it.
There is an argument, actually, we heard Tony talk about it yesterday in the debate, that it would just send young people to unregulated sites, which would be worse, sites which perhaps don't take down harmful content.
There is always a risk when you try to ban or regulate something that it will push people elsewhere. We see it across lots of different sectors. But again, I don't see that as a reason not to do it. And as I said at the outset, I think this needs to go hand in hand with parents giving children alternative devices, ones that are not maybe internet enabled, that parents who do have genuine concerns about their children's safety could still see where they were, could still text and could still phone, but they don't have access to Snapchat, WhatsApp, Roblox, YouTube 24/7 and whilst they're at school. So I think that there are things that we could do, and I think raising the age limit for social media to 16 would be a good start.
How would that be enforceable? And I suppose people will be wondering, is this a police thing? Is this a regulator thing? Where are the lines drawn?
Well, absolutely, it would be for the regulator. It wouldn't be for the police to police, as it were.
Yes.
The Online Safety Act actually makes provision for these companies to use age verification software. So there are ways in which this could be done. And as you've mentioned earlier, Australia are doing this later on this year. So it would be good to look at evidence from around the world, because let's be honest, the government isn't going to do this, and they're not going to do this anytime soon. So let's look at the evidence from what happens elsewhere in the world and pick the best from it. Again, just because it's difficult, it doesn't mean we shouldn't do it.
Well, the Data Protection Minister, Chris Bryant, said the government was focused on enacting the recent Online Safety Act and that nothing is off the table in the future. And I think that's what yesterday's debate produced as well. And I suppose this is a question, Matthew, that's not really going to go away, is it? It's something that we need to keep looking at and keep coming back to.
Yeah, and one thing he didn't say that actually is off the table is that the Education Secretary described some of the helpful things we want to do, like supporting schools and parents in banning smartphones in schools, was a headline-grabbing gimmick. So there are some things which the government have already discounted. What you saw in Parliament yesterday, and I read Tony's speech, and I thought he was very good and very fair, as were his colleagues, including others from Kent who spoke. I think we should acknowledge that there is cross-party support for this. I think we should have a proper debate on this in Parliament, and I think the Education Department needs to have a look at the overwhelming evidence that there is about the impact on children's mental health, the impacts upon their grades, on discipline, but also the fact in the last 12 months that we recorded over 1,300 crimes in Kent where Snapchat, Roblox, YouTube or WhatsApp was mentioned within the crime report. Some very serious offences taking place by and against under 16. So I think we need to continue this debate. I think we need to continue to pressure the government around these things like smartphone free schools. But I would also encourage parents who are concerned about this to have a look at the Smartphone Free Childhood website and maybe sign up for the Parent Pact, which is where parents are coming together to make that voluntary agreement that they won't give a smartphone to somebody under the age of 14.
Yes, good stuff. And to be fair, just coming back to the schools point, there are plenty of schools that are saying, right, you can't have a phone in school. We're going to put it in a Ziploc bag while you're here. And they can do that, can't they? Each school can make an individual decision.
Yeah, absolutely. But my concern is that it's not being consistently applied. So you've got some schools like John Wallace Academy who are using the pouches. You've got Simon Langton School in Canterbury who are the out of sight, out of mind approach. So if it's seen, it's taken away. But there are still some head teachers who are very liberal about these things and don't seem to mind. So it's about trying to draw that consistency. The guidance that the previous government introduced made some difference, but obviously I think needs to go further and should have gone further at the time. I think this is a conversation we need to continue to have with parents, pupils, and schools about how we make them safer online.
Very clear. Listen, Matthew, thank you for being with us this morning.